You're in business.
I'm in
Okay.
business.
Do you want to do it right now? Do it?
Do you have Venmo?
I know. It's like, I don't carry that green paper stuff.
All right, it must be 2 minutes to 7. 'Cause it got so quick.
Yeah, so dirty.
Tell me when it's 7,
I got
9 isn't up here.
59.
No, it's
6:59.
cash, so-
Okay.
Oh, I know. I don't think about that.
For some reason, mine doesn't come up at the top. I probably have to go into
47,
settings and
48.
do it or something. I'm in I annotate. It's just,
Yes.
maybe that's why. I don't know. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular meeting of your Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes, and especially to honor the men and women in uniform who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Horvath, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Madam President. Begin with Trustee Rudolph,
Here.
Trustee Sifferman,
Here.
Trustee Carroll,
Here.
Trustee Chen,
Here.
Trustee Fink,
Here.
and Trustee John,
Here.
all present.
Thank you. Having read the agenda, does any trustee have an addition or deletion to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll move right on to citizens' comments. This is when we open up the meeting to the public to address the board. Is there anyone here this evening that wishes to address the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to Sergeant Joseph Rourke, retirement. Chief Butts.
Good evening, President Gallagher.
Good
members of the
evening.
board. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to honor the man to my left. In fact, Sergeant Rourke and family, please step up, everybody. It is my distinct honor and privilege to give special recognition to Sergeant Joe Rourke. 29 years of service to the village of Western Springs, 30 in law enforcement altogether. That's a long time. And Sergeant Rourke did a majority of his career as a sergeant, 18 years almost as a sergeant with Western Springs. Again, a very long time to be in that leadership role. Joe's done it all. Too many to list here tonight. He's had about all the training you could possibly imagine or what's available. And what's unique about Sergeant Rourke is he did his entire career in patrol, which is certainly a special niche. That's the toughest assignment you can have on the department, especially when you're a supervisor of patrol. Every day is different. All those holidays and all the different things that he missed with his family. That's why I've asked his family to stand up here, because Sergeant Rourke has given a tremendous amount of sacrifice in the role that he's done, serving the citizens of Western Springs, proudly and dedicated. And one of the things that I want to hit on tonight is the legacy that he leaves behind. For me, as I get in the latter stages of my career, it is all about leaving a legacy. What is your legacy with the years you've served here? What have you done? He's done a lot. And I can speak for every officer that is in this room that have worked with him, retired officers and chiefs that have been here, the fire chiefs and fire officers. The best skill that I'll always remember Joe having is taking the time to speak with people, his colleagues, people he worked with, residents on the street. We can tell stories and stories of the time, hours, oftentimes off the clock, after the shift ended. He would talk to the officers, mentor, coach them. We've had several conversations over the years. 23 of my years have been working with Joe, and we created a lot of memories. We've accomplished a lot of great things. And, you know, one thing I want to really point out is none of this happens without those individuals standing next to his left here. We had a nice ceremony last week. Some of you were able to attend. His peers were there. It was a special moment because, first of all, the turnout was great. And it really, Joe's emotions really, he couldn't say a whole lot because he was just overflowing with emotions. And his wife, Colleen, and daughter Jessica and his son Joe. What's interesting about Jessica is also a police officer. She's following Sergeant Rourke's footsteps in the village of Mantino. So you don't see a whole lot of that anymore. I have a lot of kids, and I don't think anybody's going to follow my footsteps. But those of you that know me know that I followed my father's footsteps, and I know Joe couldn't be more proud of his daughter following his footsteps. And Joe is also an attorney as well. So some great things. You've done a lot of things right here in the village of Western Springs and with your family. And none of it would have been possible without them, especially Colleen, with your support all those years. And I'm grateful to having the chance to work with you all these years and calling you a friend. And I will miss working with you. And like I said the other day, with your retirement, part of me is retiring with you. And I do have a special gift for you. Badge 138 will be retired. Joe's last day is actually the 29th, so he has 2 more days on the books. But here is your retired commission card, and badge 138 will be retired forever. Congratulations, my friend. We have a token of our gratitude for standing by Joe's side all these years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
On behalf of the staff. And
Thank you
myself.
very much.
Joe, anything to say?
First, I'd like to thank all President Gallagher and all the board members, present and past. Ingrid was here when I first started.
I was a child.
Was here. The village of Western Springs and all its residents, and because without this community, like I said, I have a successful family. My son's an attorney, my daughter's a police officer, and this village allowed me to help get them to where they're at. And of course, my wife, who stood by me for all these years. We're married 32 years. So childhood
Congratulations.
sweetheart. You know, and the village, all the employees that I work with, Lou's here from the firehouse, Pat always helps me with all my computer stuff, Chief Penny, Marty's here, Cass Chief, Sam Church, Mac over here. There's a lady we always like, because she signs our check. You know? So, I just want to thank everybody that I've worked with over the years. Again, the residents. My first chief, Bill Ripkema, passed away this year, so I'll make a quick mention of him. And without him, he promoted me to sergeant. I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for him. He hired me and brought me in. So I just want to again thank everybody.
Thank you, Sergeant Rourke.
I got it.
Go ahead.
Sergeant, Chief Buds talked a little bit about legacy, and he also talked about a part of, he's going to be missing you a lot. Now, if I did my math right, it seems as though you would have been in patrol when a young Chief Buds was not a chief, but a patrol officer. So is there any, without revealing too much on the negative side, but is there something that stands out that you would have been able to recognize at the time, quality of leadership that would pass from you and be enhanced in Chief Buds?
Well, I remember when he first came, he was part-time during the summer, and we kind of become friends then. That was a long time ago. He just got out of college, and I think we like the same kind of music.
Okay.
You know, but I think he took a lot of traits from his father, who was my first sergeant here, and he excelled with that. And I think he would even tell you that he owes a lot to his father for following his steps. And all the years working together, you know, just.
And I learned a few things from him.
Yeah.
That's
I actually did.
Yeah.
a great example of a legacy.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, 29 years. Our oldest son is 29, so I know just how long that is. But thank you so much on behalf of the board. We really appreciate your dedication, your service to Western Springs, and protecting our community all those years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I know over the years, the role of police officer or sergeant has changed, but you have always served throughout that changing time with kindness and with heart. So I know that all of those left behind will think of you kindly when they think of you. and your experience and mentorship of our new recruits is something that is just priceless, and we value very much. So we wish you and Colleen and your family many years of health and happiness. I understand you're a movie buff with an encyclopedic mind for quips. So as you leave us and depart for new horizons, may the force be with you. Thank you. Thank you, Colleen.
Stay for the candidates here?
Yeah, what's your
I have
view
a
on
feeling
it?
that's why he's leaving. Okay, next on our agenda is the public hearing on an ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on the approval or prohibition of adult-use cannabis business establishments in the village of Western Springs. I'm calling that public hearing to order now. As a brief introduction, at the November 11th, 2019 board workshop meeting, the Public Health and Safety Committee recommended the board adopt an ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on the approval or prohibition of recreational cannabis businesses within Western Springs until after the November general election, when voting residents will have an opportunity to weigh in on this issue via an advisory referendum. By consensus vote, the full board concurred with that recommendation. The next step in the process is this public hearing, which gives the public an opportunity to address the board regarding the proposed adoption of an ordinance to establish the moratorium. At this time, I'd like to hand it over to Village Attorney Jarusic for his overview on the moratorium ordinance.
Thank you. Very briefly, there's an agenda item. This is an action item on your agenda later tonight. This public hearing is really just to discuss, does the board want to move forward to adopt this ordinance and impose a temporary moratorium to further evaluate recreational cannabis businesses. What you've been given is an ordinance. If approved, it will impose a temporary moratorium on adult-use cannabis establishments for essentially a one-year period. It'll start January 1, 2020. It will automatically end December 31st, 2020. Inside the moratorium ordinance is a commitment for the board to put in place 3 advisory referendum at the November 2020 election. The board will have to come up with those advisory referendum questions later in the year, but this moratorium ordinance tonight puts you down that path of, putting the brakes on, not allowing a recreational cannabis dispensary or like business to come into town until further study can happen and until the essentially a community survey can be done, which is, would be the advisory referendum questions at the November 2020 election. So that's really the purpose. It's really up for you to discuss, and it's teed up to be an action item later tonight.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the meeting up to the public again with respect to this public hearing on the moratorium ordinance. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board this evening? Good evening.
My name's Kevin Gordon, 4230 Ellington Avenue. It would be my hope that you wouldn't need an advisory referendum to make a decision like this, that you would ban that kind of a business in Western Springs. It's not needed here. I don't know how much revenue you think you will gain off of such a single business. And then if you just look at our village, where are you going to put it? We have 2 commercial districts. Downtown, probably not the best place for it, in the Garden Market, next to the high school. So I hope you'll think about that. You're probably going to put it to an advisory referendum. I would have hoped that you could make that decision and exercise the leadership without it. So we'll wait and see in a year. I don't think you're going to gain any great insight, but it's my hope that when the time comes, you will prohibit that kind of business here. Let other villages deal with what's going to happen around them, because we're not going to get rich off of it. it's not gonna fill a budget hole. It's just gonna cause you problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Would anyone else like to address the board this evening? Hearing none, I'll open it up to board discussion now. Would anyone like to discuss this topic?
I have some comments prepared, Madam Chair, Madam President. And members of the board, I offer the following comments in support of a motion to temporarily prohibit the adult use recreational cannabis business establishments from operating in the village of Western Springs until such time as the results of an advisory referendum may be reviewed by this body. But I've taken note of the Mr. Gordon's comments and the lack of any extensive comments that have been made at any other public meeting that we've had on this subject at the committee level. It is my opinion, however, that the Illinois legislatures and governors' acts to legalize recreational cannabis for adults was ill-conceived, ill-advised, and reckless. Their end goal was shameful, bailing out unavoidable and avoidable state funding shortages, and their means were shameless, proliferating production and tax revenues from increased use of a harmful substance. Hypnotized by dollar, they prioritized the state's fiscal health over its residents' health and welfare. Their means of increasing state revenue were poorly justified by their primary goal. Their abrupt application of situation ethics has created a panoply of real law enforcement and public safety challenges in its wake. My perspective on this issue is informed by my 43-year career as a juvenile probation officer in Cook County and more recently as chief probation officer in San Francisco, where I witnessed thousands of families ravaged by recreational cannabis use that aided and abetted truancy, learning disabilities, homelessness, unemployment, proliferating drug usage, chronic poor judgment, and escalating criminal behaviors. To think that legalized recreational use among adults 21 and over will not accelerate opportunities and circumstances increasing use among minors is totally naive. Now, I fully realize that our action this evening will not block the pending legislation authorizing recreational use by adults effective January 1st. To think that revenue generated from the sale of recreational cannabis for adult use by any business establishment here in Western Springs, whether that will provide lucrative fiscal benefit, is extremely naive. In Western Springs, I believe the end is not justified by the means. For these reasons, I support an ordinance that establishes a temporary moratorium on the approval or prohibition of cannabis establishments in Western Springs. I offer those comments for your consideration.
Thank you, Trustee Sifferman, for your comments. Would anyone else like to discuss or comment?
I have a question. How many dispensary licenses are going to be issued or available as of January 1st?
The state has already issued 56 medical cannabis licenses. They have the opportunity to also gain a recreational license in a dual capacity. And then there's the first phase is 106, I believe, licenses will be issued. And then there's a second wave of licensing that will happen a couple years from now. So
That's total in the state, right?
that's across the state,
In
yeah.
Cook County, I think, is maybe 47.
Yeah, there is just under 50 being allocated to the metropolitan Cook County or Chicago metropolitan area.
So are we not then effectively, I mean, do you anticipate any of those licenses are available a year from now? I mean, we're effectively, it is a moratorium, and I look forward to learning what happens with other communities. I think that's a good, but there really won't, is it likely there will be licenses even remaining?
Well, you don't know because you don't know the application curve,
Right.
you know, how long that's gonna take, and whether, you know, some establishments may get licensed in a particular location and it doesn't work out for, you know, a variety of reasons and they look to relocate.
Okay.
So, you know, it may not take the Village of Western Springs out of consideration, but it certainly won't put you in a place to be considered first as open for business, whereas other communities that are opting in will be put in that position.
Is there a limit on the licenses?
Well, there's a
50.
cap, about 106 is the first phase of these licenses, and then there's a second tranche or a second group of licensing that is contemplated by the state. And, you know, again, the state just changed in a legislative amendment in August, some significant aspects to medical cannabis and recreational cannabis. There's a trailer bill that's pending downstate right now. I would anticipate, given how quickly that the state has pushed this through, that additional legislation will, you know, will come back that will, depending on the velocity of sales and the, you know, how this industry grows, you know, there will be additional legislation that you know, adjusts to accommodate demand or lack thereof.
Isn't that trailer bill like 400 pages long?
405 pages long, the trailer bill, correct.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So
there's
still working out the kinks.
still working out the kinks, and I think we'll be here a year from now, and they'll still be working out the kinks with the rollout of the program.
Okay. So our advisory is non-binding, of course, so even if 99% of the villagers did decide that they wanted to have the cannabis, recreational cannabis, it would still have to come before our board.
That's
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the local municipality has the ability to opt out through the legislation, and the advisory referendum questions this, next year, if you go that direction, would be purely advisory.
Okay.
Do we know what the results were of the 2018 Illinois question that we answered? The state as a whole voted, or like 62 or 66% in favor of legalization on the 2018 November ballot.
We can find that information.
I don't know if we voted, I don't know, like if we voted similar to the state or if very different.
We can break it out and see what Western Springs.
Their question, though, was more general, was do you support
Oh, yes, for
legalization
the
of
state,
marijuana
yes.
for the
Very-
state?
For
So,
Western
yeah,
Springs, yes.
so.
Yes.
But, yeah, it would be good information to have.
It just would just be, give us some
Sure.
indication,
Right.
right?
Any other discussion, comments? Okay. In that case, I'll now adjourn the public hearing regarding the moratorium ordinance. Moving on to new business, agenda item number 1, trustee Sifferman.
Madam President, I would like to introduce and move that an ordinance 19-2979 that establishes a temporary moratorium on the approval or prohibition of adult use cannabis business establishments within the Village of Western Springs be adopted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Horvath, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Sifferman.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the consideration of and action on our agenda items. The Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions, such as awards of contract, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion, and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request this evening? Hearing none, trustee Terrell.
President Gallagher, I move that the following ordinances, resolutions, and motions as contained on the meeting agenda for November 25th, 2019 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item number 2, approval of the minutes of the meetings of October 28th and November 11th, 2019 as read. Agenda item number 3, ordinance 19-2980, authorizing the disposal of surplus personal property owned by the Village of Western Springs Finance Department. That's miscellaneous equipment. Agenda item number 4, ordinance 19-2981, amending Title III, Business Regulations, Chapter 3, Licensed Businesses and Occupations, Schedule of Fees, and Chapter 6, Special Business Regulations, Roman numeral 3, Article B, Scavengers, and Title V, Public Health and Safety, Chapter 4, Garbage, Refuse, and Waste, of the Western Springs Municipal Code to update certain provisions regarding the collection and disposal of solid waste and recycling materials. Agenda item number 5, ordinance 19-2982, amending Title VII, Motion Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 2, Vehicle Licenses, of the Western Springs Municipal Code to amend certain code provisions pertaining to the payment of motor vehicle sticker fees and the penalty for delinquent and non-payment of motor vehicle stickers. Agenda item number 6, Resolution 19-2513, approving and authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement between the Village of Western Springs and Baxter and Woodman, Inc. for professional engineering services for performance of Phase 1 design engineering services related to the elevated water storage tank repainting project. Agenda item number 7, Resolution 19-2514, approving and authorizing the execution of a professional services agreement between the Village of Western Springs and Baxter and Woodman, Inc. for professional assistance and preparation of the application and supporting documentation for a low-interest loan through the fiscal year 2021 IEPA Public Water Supply Loan Program. Agenda item number 8, Resolution 19-2515, determining the estimated real property tax levy for the year 2019 for the Village of Western Springs. Agenda item number 9, Resolution 19-2516, approving a budget amendment and transfers over $10,000 to the fiscal year 2019 operating budget in the General Fund, Water Fund, Roadway Construction Fund, and TIF Fund. Agenda item number 10, Resolution 19-2517, approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement of adoption of the update of the Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan for the Village of Western Springs. Agenda item number 11, Resolution 19-2518, appointing certain chief executives, administrators, managers, and members of the Village Board, City Council to the position of Director and Alternate Director of the West Cook County Solid Waste Agency. Agenda item number 12, Resolution 19-2519, approving and authorizing the execution of change order number 1 to the 2018 construction contract entered into between the Village of Western Springs and Davis Concrete Construction Company for the 2018 roadway improvements project. Agenda item number 13, motion to waive the competitive bidding process and approve an October 31st, 2019 proposal for certain well number 4 maintenance work to be performed by Suez of Elborn, Illinois, in an amount not to exceed $276,035, consisting of well number 4 overhaul, removal, and inspection work in an amount not to exceed $25,000, the purchase of a factory rebuilt 400 horsepower Byron Jackson Type M motor for the purchase price of $99,700, and the purchase of 760 feet of new 8-inch TNC pipe with API couplings at a purchase price of $52,440, and other such necessary work at cost set forth in Village Staff Report, Table 6.1, Cost Analysis for Well Number 4 Strategic Improvements and Scheduled Maintenance Work. Bid waiver due to limited availability of qualified well contractors who can complete the work on the village's timetable. Agenda item number 14, motion to waive the competitive bidding process and approve a September 9th, 2019 invoice for emergency well number 3 rehabilitation and maintenance work performed by Suez of Elborn, Illinois, at a cost of $142,024, Illinois, bid waiver based on solicitation of competitive proposals from known quality vendors and selection of Suez after village staff equipment assessment and recommendation. Agenda item number 15, motion to waive the competitive bidding process and approve the purchase of 29 self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, units, including credit for 26 units to be traded in at a total purchase price of $120,945 from Air One Equipment, Inc. of South Elgin, Illinois. Bid waiver based on solicitation of competitive proposals from known quality vendors and a selection of Air One equipment after village staff equipment and assessment and recommendation.
Thank you, Trustee Terrell. Quite a mouthful. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Clerk Horvath, may we have the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Zimmerman.
Aye.
And President Gallagher.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to other business. Anybody have any other business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to our reports. First, Trustee Rudolph with the monthly financial report.
Thank you, President Gallagher. For our October month-end close, starting, as always, with the Police Pension Fund, it posted positive results with unrealized gains of about 1.5%, but with a trailing 12-month return of 11.16%, which, just per our last conversation, that exceeds our 6.75% assumption. And compare that to the same that I reported last month, where our 12-month trailing return was 3.38%. So we had a bad month drop off. So it's an interesting difference,
Yes.
and a good, positive difference. The general fund ended the month with a surplus, and our sales taxes received in October were almost 8% lower than the same period last year. And our year-to-date receipts for sales tax are 2.89% lower than last year. Distributions of local income tax continue to outpace our projections, resulting in an increase in our estimated revenue. And our expenditures are on target, which includes encumbrances of about $99.8 thousand, which are for future transactions. Next, the water and the sewer funds. The consumption bill in October was just slightly lower than 2018, just a little bit under 1% lower. To date, however, we are at 7.3% lower than 2018. We are currently showing a surplus, however, but that's just due to timing of the IEPA proceeds and the well number 5 first payment. So those are the highlights. Any questions on that? So if none, then I would make a motion to accept the October financial reports.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. May we have the roll call vote, please, Clerk Horvath?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
Trustee Zimmerman.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
And Trustee John.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Moving on to my report, on November 12th to 14th, Manager Velkme, Finance Director Turi, Trustee Chen, and Trustee Rudolph and I attended the WCMC, that's the West Central Municipal Conference Legislative Conference in D.C. You'll remember that the WCMC is our Council of Government, our Regional Council of Government. We met with several legislators and/or their staff. We met with Representative Rodney Davis, who is a member of the House Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. We met with Senator Durbin's Senior Policy Advisor and also Senator Duckworth's Senior Policy Advisor. We met with Congressman Dan Lipinski's Legislative Director, and at each of these meetings, we discussed the status and outlook for a new transportation bill, and we also discussed the village's concerns with lack of control and oversight over 5G implementation. We also emphasized the need for federal financial support to mitigate increased flooding and to help with combined sewer overflows and the separation of these combined sewers. We We also met as a group with the other members of the WCMC, with Senator Duckworth briefly and Senator Durbin. Representative Chuy Garcia spoke to our regional group about the current challenges in Washington, including transportation and infrastructure planning and funding. I think it's always valuable to meet with our reps, whether they're in Springfield or DC, to share our concerns and explore potential grant opportunities. And we are waiting to hear from each of these offices on ways we can pursue grant opportunities in the future. Trustees Chen or Rudolph, do you have anything to add, or Manager Veltme?
Not at this time.
Yeah.
I mean, we also got to meet with, well, you did say Senator Durbin. I thought that was very illustrative,
Yes.
just as an overall picture of what was going on in Washington
Yes.
at the time, yes.
I would just add too that
Sure.
it seems to me impactful when we do go there as a group and representing kind of the west suburban interests of ours and other similarly situated villages. So that seems to me to be a good thing to do on an occasional basis,
Right.
and for them to hear us as a group. And I thought it was very interesting that both Senator Duckworth and Senator Durbin did meet with us personally, as well as Representative Davis.
Yes.
Which doesn't happen a lot, so I thought that was a testament to the kind of the power of the numbers. So
Right.
it's great.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you both for attending the conference. Your comments and your engagement with the representatives is truly appreciated, so thank you. Yeah. On Thursday, November 21st, Trustee Chen, Finance Director Turi, Community Development Director Scott, Recreation Director Alex Breedis, Assistant Finance Director Mastandona, Fire Marshal Grimm. I hope I'm not missing anyone, and I attended the WSBA, that's the Western Springs Business Association annual luncheon at Foxford Station. The WSBA is getting ready for its annual Winter Wonderland and Christmas Marketplace, which will take place on December 7th from 2 to 7. You may have noticed that Santa's house is now up and is ready for those little residents to come. Finally, today, I received an email from State Representative Kelly Burke, who advises that the University of Illinois is completing an analysis of the studies on 5G and its effects. Yeah, that's good news. Also, the Swedish government is conducting a study following citizen concerns about 5G, and this study may be published by the end of the year. It was supposed to be published mid-year, and I actually have a printout of an article regarding that if you all want to see that. I'll send that way. The article states that the World Health Organization is conducting a risk assessment of health outcomes from radio frequency fields exposure, which is timely, although I don't know when that will be published. Finally, at this time of year, it's a good time to reflect on everything that you're thankful for. I am so thankful for this committed board that is devoted to serving the residents of Western Springs, and of course our staff, from our senior staff in the back row all the way down to everyone that is out there making sure that Western Springs continues to be the best place to call home. So whether you're traveling far or staying near, I wish you all and our residents a very happy Thanksgiving. And that concludes my report. Manager Veltme.
Thank you, President Gallagher. I'm going to refer to Director Scott with regard to the Western Springs Business Association's request for sale of a craft cocktail at the December 7, 2019 Winter Wonderland event.
Thank you, Manager Velkme. The Business Association, as President Gallagher said, is getting ready for their event. And a few months ago, well, several months ago, they came before you to get their annual license for the three main events they do. And as events are being prepared, the details come out a little differently each time. Typically, it's just beer and wine that they want to sell through the Class I license that they get. With the introduction, thankfully, of Guac and Tacos coming into town, they're going to participate and asked if they could sell margaritas there.
People might want margaritas if it's mild out, I'm not sure. But along with beer and wine, they're asking for a small amendment to the license, and would like your consideration of that, so that can happen on the 7th. And a little side note, if by chance you're in favor of that, one of the things Attorney Drusik and I talked about was broadening that a little bit in the liquor license application, so that if there is a special request for something that's like a seasonal drink, that they could ask for and it could be considered, not granted immediately, but at least considered, so.
Okay. Well, should we motion that up and then discuss it? Is the, okay. Trustee Terrell, would you motion that? That usually would come out of general government committees, so.
I would have a motion to approve the sale of craft cocktails at the December 7th, 2019 Winter Wonderland Special Event under the Class J liquor license, special events on village-owned property, beer and wine only, issued to the Western Springs Business Association.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think it seems like a fine idea.
Yeah.
For limited purposes. I think.
Salt or no salt?
Yeah.
Frozen or not frozen?
Well, it depends on the weather, right?
Yes, regardless.
Anyone else, any comments? No. Okay. In that case, may we have a roll call vote, please, Clerk Horvath?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee John.
Aye.
Trustee Rudolph.
Aye.
And Trustee Zimmerman.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
And I do have one more item to report on, and that is the garden market standpipe has been completed, the maintenance on that, so it has been painted and so forth, and the tank is ready to be refilled. Beginning December 2nd, the volume of the tank will be slowly replenished to its capacity of 2 million gallons, and this will take about 4 to 5 days. So, and as the valve to the tank is reopened and the flow of water changes direction, some residents may experience some temporary disruptions. It would be something similar to the discoloration that you have when you have the fire hydrants are being flushed. So this is temporary in nature, just so that we can balance out the water there. And should be resolved within a few hours. And if anybody has any questions, to call the water department or over to Public Works, so.
Will we be posting that on our website?
Yes, that is
Okay.
already, it's scheduled to go on right away on December 1st.
Great. That's my question.
And when will they put the wire, the
That'll
cell
be about
towers?
next year sometime because of the amount of poles.
Yeah, we actually scheduled a meeting or a conference call about 2 weeks ago with the cell providers. They're going to begin transitioning the equipment off probably mid to late December, and then it's probably going to take several months because it takes about 2 weeks for each provider to transfer the equipment over. And we've already begun conversations with them about potentially migrating or planning for the elevated tank project, which will be happening at a later date.
Okay.
Will there be any impact on fire abatement during the
No, I do not.
during filling that?
No, it should remain consistent to how it has been, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions?
And that concludes my report. And also happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you. Attorney Drusik,
No formal report tonight, but I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving holiday.
thank you very much. In that case, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Or we can stay.
I'd have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ladies and gentlemen, we stand adjourned. Good evening.